Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 51. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, how are you doing?
I am doing all right. I got to go run to the doctor sometime tomorrow, but see if there is anything wrong with me. But other than that, status quo here in Vegas.
How's your fantasy teams doing? You're in 50 of them, so I could.
I know quite a few of them. One championship just happened this past week, and I lost that one.
You had a championship game already?
Yeah.
Wow.
One of them that runs a little bit early, and then I don't know in the playoffs or going to be in the playoffs in about 12 of them or so, I think.
What about our Depot League? Where did you finish? You had a decent record, I think.
I had, that one's kind of a free one, so that one gets kind of pushed down. I usually spend a lot of time Saturday night going through all those and all. So about average as expected, I guess. I had a couple injuries. I had JuJu on one team, and that hurt. You know how it is. You get a couple injuries, a couple things not go your way, and people beat you to the waiver wire on some blind bidding. Sometimes can really mess you up, along with bad decisions.
Right. Speaking of the Depot League, I guess we got to give our Josh Carney some credit. He came in first in our Depot League, 11-0 his record, so undefeated. We'll see what he does in the championship game. I came in second place for playoffs, so we'll see how that goes. But Josh, running the table, so kudos to him.
That's tough to do in a fantasy league.
Yeah, no, good job for him. All right, Dave, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin had his press conference Tuesday afternoon. Nothing groundbreaking as usual. Generally speaking, it's, very Tomlinisms for the 20-25 minutes that he talks. Devlin Hodges will start. How about you go ahead and run through the injury report for us? Give us a status update on guys like James Conner and JuJu Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, Tomlin did update, and it really wasn't much of an update, just really two players that he talked about. James Conner with his shoulder, JuJu Smith-Schuster with his knee. He says, the two significant ones he still doesn't have a lot of clarity on, that being Conner and JuJu. He'd probably characterize both those guys as questionable as he stands there right then. They got some work in front of them in terms of rehabilitation and maybe practice participation, and we'll see where all that leads. He just says he doesn't have any indication on what that might be. He saw both guys in the training room working hard. We'll see what practice availability looks like. He says Connor's probably got a better chance to practice in some capacity on Wednesday, more so than JuJu. But again, we'll take it day by day and see where it leads us. So, that's not overly optimistic. It doesn't sound from the context, at least. And he did not say anything about Artie Burns, who's missed the last couple of games with the knee injury that he sustained against the Cleveland Browns. That's really not that big of a deal, though, because with Artie sidelined, Justin Lane has been getting the helmet and seemingly playing okay on special teams, which is all Artie's doing at this point as well, too. So, he never gave an update coming out of that game the other day against the Browns, and no new names were mentioned today. So we're going to assume, and it's probably dangerous to do, that probably the only two or three guys listed on the injury report on Wednesday afternoon will be James Conner, JuJu, maybe Artie Burns, and maybe they'll give a guy a day's rest or something like that.
Right. My guess of it is, James Conner basically not sounding optimistic on his radio show on Monday, and the fact that Tomlin's conceding that that Conner has a better chance to practice than JuJu. My feeling is Conner may get in a limited session at some point this week, but by Sunday against Arizona, neither player is going to play. So it's probably going to be at least another week for JuJu and James Conner to return.
Makes you wonder, JuJu had something, a meniscus or something,
Right? Yeah, we don't know any specifics about that knee injury.
No, just that it's the left side, and he was wearing a brace on it. But I know we have spotted him on the sidelines the other day against the Browns there. But I haven't.
Was he wearing a brace against the Browns?
I didn't. They just showed him upper torso from what I saw. So I didn't see, at least in when I spotted him, I didn't see. Maybe we can see something as we go back through the film a couple more times. But no, I don't have a clue other than just him wearing that brace. And like I said, I don't know that he had a meniscus. I'm just throwing it out there. Missing 2 games and not practicing, not sounding like he will practice Wednesday. But we'll see. We've guessed wrong on these things before, so it wouldn't be the first time.
Right, and hey, they're winning without those guys, and thanks to guys like Benny Snell and Jalen Samuels. I don't want to get too much in the weeds about this, but just off the top, just going back to the All-22, I thought Jalen Samuels had his most impressive game of the season. He really elevated his play against the Browns on Sunday.
Yeah, and boy, he took on that one block over there on the left side and just steamrolled. Who was it? Greedy, I think.
When he ran him over, yeah.
It was one of those over there, and of course had a couple of nice wildcat runs in there. So trying to go back through my head. Pass pro too. Yeah, had at least maybe 2 pass pro. I know there was the one that was quality pass pro in that, and that's obviously one of the things that we've worried about since he was drafted there. But I don't know. I don't know how you feel about getting one guy in a rhythm and shuttling some of those guys on and off. But they had their best. I think it was their best successful run rate of the season against the Browns. It probably didn't feel like it, but hey, they're going to have to continue to run the ball, and especially later in games, you would think if they have some leads here. So yeah, Samuels had a positive, and I was thinking on top of him, just second-year players in general. James Washington, a second-year player, obviously had a good game. Samuels, good game. Who else? Edmonds didn't. I don't guess stuck out negatively. So
his tackling was solid.
Who else do we have in that second year?
Well, you got Okorafor and Rudolph. Neither of those guys I think are making the jump. But yeah, you're getting Samuels again. Just one game. I think it's been a still difficult year for him overall. But one game is a positive thing. Let's hope it continues going forward. And then James Washington, of course, exploding. So you're getting some key contributions from a couple of second-year guys.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, before we get back to Tomlin, I want to talk about one kind of roster move that's made here. Well, Marquise Pouncey has been officially brought back off the suspension list. They were given a roster exemption that runs through Wednesday with him, although it was weird they asked for an exemption and they still cut Patrick Morris with the intention, I assume, to put him back on the practice squad. Unfortunately, been down this road before this year with Fred Johnson, that's not going to happen. The Denver Broncos claiming Patrick Morris to their 53-man roster, so he's now a member of the Mike Munchak Denver Broncos, and so there's an obvious connection there. Morris brought in last year. Munchak is the O-line coach in Pittsburgh. Late in the year, Broncos are out of it. They're looking to build a futures roster, an offseason 90-man group, so Patrick Morris now a Denver Bronco.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. That's unfortunate, but you kind of worried about that this late in the season when you have to elevate a guy and then waive him. However, he was still available to be claimed off the Steelers practice squad if they really wanted him, and that was obviously or seemingly where he was destined to land. So you never say never about guys making their way back, but probably barring them needing a roster spot or anything, he's probably going to spend the final 4 weeks on the roster of the Broncos, and then they'll probably right after the season gets over with probably try to sign him to a futures to a reserve futures contract there. So in the meantime, is JC, how do you pronounce JC's last name?
Hassenauer,
yeah. He remains on the practice squad, and I guess technically they've I guess they got a floating rock. I haven't seen where Pouncey's been reinstated back yet to the 53. It's only a technicality at this point, but it feels like there's a kind of a floating spot, if you will.
Right, because the exemption grants them a 54-man roster, and they don't have to say 53 guys, including Pouncey, on the roster right now.
Right.
So didn't use it. Don't know the whole mechanism. It's like you said, it's a minor, minutia of football. He'll come back. All the exemption expires on Wednesday. He'll be back, and that'll take care of that. With Morris, he was never going to be anything more than, I think, a fringe roster guy. Compare his ceiling to like an Austin Blythe type. I think he was an interesting athlete with a strength, size, athleticism kind of profile coming out of TCU, but just didn't have the size, the length, and could be overpowered too much. So I'm not going to miss him as much as I miss, Fred Johnson. I thought there was more potential with a guy like Fred Johnson. But I will say is that the interior, depth of the Steelers offensive line isn't taking a beating here. Losing Fred Johnson, losing Patrick Morris, a couple of UDFAs you found with some talent, and then B.J. Finney being a free agent after the season from a Foster, one of the oldest players in the roster. His contract's up in 2020. You're likely to see this team heavily reinvest in its interior offensive line depth pretty soon.
I could definitely see that in the first, especially with not having a first-round draft pick this year.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes some of them guard types will slide on into the second round there,
I could see a third-round comp pick, the way they kind of surprised with the core four, trying to plan ahead, be forward-thinking. I think you could very easily see a day 2 pick addressing that position.
Yeah, I could as well.
Yeah, so Morris, again, going to the Denver Broncos, and doesn't change anything for now, but it's another blow to depth when the Steelers pride themselves on having really strong offensive line depth. Back to Tomlin on Tuesday. What else did he say that stuck out again? Doug Hodges, no surprise here, named the starter for the Cardinals game. He's going to remain the starter as long as his team wins, and Hodges plays well. That's not going to change at all, so even if it's not been made official, the way that the Jaguars, for example, are naming Gardner Minshew the starter for the rest of the year, that Hodges is going to be the guy until something dramatically changes with either his play or the team record. What else from Tomlin kind of stuck out to you on Tuesday?
A little bit of praise for Robert Spillane as far as practice squad. Tevin Jones got some early love from Tomlin, especially that ball that we talked about the other day. The catch that he had was a significant one on the play that he got contacted early on. So a little bit of love for him, a little bit of love for Robert Spillane. Benny Snell, I think, got a little bit some kudos in there as well. And I'm trying to think if there are any other kudos along the way.
My favorite comment from Washington I gave it away, but from Tomlin was about James Washington, and coming off this great game, it's very easy to praise him, but Tomlin always setting the bar high, saying, that breakout game, his visions of what a breakout game is more than what Washington did on Sunday. So really high bar for him, but challenging Washington to step up and keep improving.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, that was four catches, 11 something yards, 14 yards, something like that. Three big down the field catches there. And if you look back at what he's done over the course of the last 5 weeks, and especially from a receiving yardage standpoint, I think what I read up, only 3 or 4 other NFL players have more receiving yardage than he does during that last 5 weeks. Now, of course, there might have been a player or two off or whatnot due to a bye week in there. So it was just kind of a rough search there. But 11 of his catches this year, I think, have been of the explosive play variety. And of those 11, they've averaged something like 34, 35 yards, per reception there. And, another thing that I noted when I wrote up the quote from Tomlin was, 2.5. He's done that with 2.5 games of not having JuJu on the field as well too. So that's pretty significant there as well. And now you just look, we've seen what he can do now. So just keep on doing it, and they'll play a Cardinals defense on Sunday that has allowed a league worst 60 passing plays that have gone for explosive plays, 20 yards or more. That's 60 divided by how many games? 12 games. That's 5 a game there. Now, I have not looked specifically at how many of those were deep pass completions. I will between now and Sunday's game, of course, there. But needless to say, it's definitely setting up where maybe not a career game, but potentially another 100-yard game for him, and maybe another touchdown or two. That's definitely what I think we should be expecting, or at least hoping for out of James Washington.
You're gaining a lot of confidence in him. I think Duck's gaining a lot of confidence in his ability, and he's showing, again, I said this on Monday's podcast, why you drafted him as high as you did. And he had 3 catches Sunday of 30-plus yards. The Steelers hadn't had 3 receptions of 30-plus yards in an entire game for over the entire team all season long. So he did that by himself in one game. So remarkable there. His concentration, his hands, being able to win those contested, combative situations. I thought the most impressive – I mean, they were all great plays, but
the feet?
What are you talking?
The feet, getting the feet down. Was that where you?
Yeah,
was going?
I mean, we're getting his feet down, and then obviously the touchdown he had was a really difficult play because he's getting pulled back. But even on I think the 44-yarder down the right side, that was basically a one-hand grab. Denzel Ward, the corner for Cleveland, actually played it really well. Washington flashed his hand just a little too early, and so Ward was able to kind of lock and grab Washington's left wrist, so he couldn't bring his hand up. So he basically caught the ball with just his right hand, clutching it to his chest, and then was able to get his left hand free and secure the ball going to the ground. So I think that was almost just as impressive as the touchdown, just because it was basically a one-handed grab, at least initially. So some great throws from Duck Hodges. The ball placement was excellent, really, on all three plays. Or really, the touchdown wasn't the best placement, but the other two were on the money. But Washington making some really tough, combative catches.
Yeah, look, and his college tape was littered with those down the sideline type throws. Most of them obviously on that right side. There, but that's another significant thing I think as well too is that first one was a left side catch.
Right.
Obviously he has made other catches on the left side. Especially going back to kind of preseason and all like that. But I thought that was significant. Him being able to get his feet down on that free play one down the left sideline. But there were tons of them at Oklahoma State that were kind of dropped in the bucket that contested type balls that he came away with, and those are lobster claws, not hands.
Oh, yep, my bad. Lobster claws. And again, just to go back to Tomlin, just the way that he kind of, because whenever he speaks in these press conferences, they aren't just for you and I and for the media at large to listen to this. It's directed at his players. So his ability to push buttons, praise Tevin Jones, praise Robert Spillane, two guys so that people don't talk about too much, that are kind of really trying to grind this thing out and make an impact. So rewarding them by praising them a little bit, but then challenging and kind of pushing Washington buttons of, yeah, you did a good job, but I know there's a lot more still, room for improvement for you, James Washington. So just kind of his ability to challenge guys and call them out in a sense of, expecting praise after this game. And obviously Tomlin has praised him for the job that he's done, but also still like, let's not get a big head about this, James Washington. Let's go out there and make some bigger plays because there's still a lot of career left and a lot higher ceiling to climb to.
And kind of indirectly, while talking about Devlin Hodges today, you can tell that the emphasis really is on, we just got to get out of the next stadium with a win. We're doing whatever it takes to get out of the next stadium with a win. We're not worrying about Devlin Hodges and development 4 weeks from now. We want to see how we can get Devlin Hodges best ready for this next game.
And that's the right approach to take. You can't have this long-term view when you're still fighting for a playoff spot, and if you lose to Arizona Sunday, then we're talking about how the sky's falling. You got to have this just one game at a time mentality. Anything else long-term is just that long-term, not the focal point for Tomlin and not the focal point for the team right now.
Right, and you could just tell that that's kind of through the context of what he had to say that's the message that's being preached and behind closed doors as well too.
Absolutely. To go back to Spillane and Tevin Jones, Tomlin just talked about kind of the job that Jones did for that 28-yard reception, which, as you pointed out, was a great catch the play before Washington's touchdown. Then Spillane has 7 tackles on special teams this year. That's 4th on the team. The dude's played in 4 games. So I think he's done a really nice job stepping in for UG3. And it's one of those times where you go, you remember him back at training camp. He had a really strong performance at Latrobe. Gets on the practice squad, got cut briefly in some of the roster shuffle mid-year when they were just ravaged by injuries, but coming back, putting his hand in the pile. So as much as we talk about next man up for guys like Devlin Hodges coming in to be your third-string quarterback, Benny Snell coming in to pick up the slack for, when James Conner goes down, you think about other guys stepping up in smaller, less noticeable areas, like Robert Spillane stepping up for Ulysses Gilbert III going down, mid-season. So it's all about the next man up for every position. I think Spillane's doing a really nice job on special teams.
Maybe he's the next Dirty Red.
He reminds me a lot of him, yeah. And Medikevich is a free agent after the season. I mean, he'd be cheap to bring back, but if you lose him, then Spillane could try to slide right in.
You can never have too many of those guys that core special teamers that actually light up the stat sheet on special teams. And look, Spillane's a lot more athletic than Medikevich is too.
Right, yeah. So always good to have those guys again stepping in and stepping up. For Tomlin, one negative from this game was all the pre-snap penalties, and you talked about it. Was interested to see if Tomlin would discuss it today, and Tomlin was asked about that. I think there were 6 false starts total on the offense for Pittsburgh on Sunday, and he says Tomlin does, quote, "We've got to be better there. It was catastrophic almost to our efforts in a lot of instances. We're trying to run the clock out and we're getting false starts, putting ourselves in challenging possession down in distances. It was not good. That's one area of play that needs to improve. Pre-snap penalties on both sides of the ball for us." So yeah, a lot of just problems created, unforced errors by Pittsburgh on Sunday, and as Tomlin said, it nearly cost the team.
And you wonder how some of them play calls maybe would have went. Or how things maybe would have played out on a drive or two, because what did I write? 3 or 4 of those false starts, effectively what we call drive killers. There, what happens different if you stay in those 2nd and 6s or what have you, Right. But yeah, those could have been catastrophic, just as Mike Tomlin said. And what did they have? What I write? They had 19 or 20 false starts on the season. Just a handful of teams have more of them in that department. And boy, Deontay Johnson's had a few of them. Vance McDonald had a couple of them, I think, in that game Sunday. And look, occasionally, and obviously the Devlin Hodges one was a farce, if you will. But yeah, you got it. And how do you correct that? I mean, hold your waters better, or just got to be more in tune with the snap count and everything. And look, on the defensive side of the ball too. A couple times we've had neutral zone type infractions, and while technically not a false start, the illegal formation penalty was called on. That's technically a pre-snap penalty, if you will, on top of it. So that's definitely one thing as we turn the page into the game against the Cardinals that we're looking for an improvement in that area. A couple times this year they've had 10, 12 penalties in a game. You'd definitely like to see that more along the lines of 4 or 5 if at all possible, and definitely not of the pre-snap variety.
And the wild thing is, don't go blaming the offensive line for this on Sunday. There were only 2 penalties on the O-line in total. One of them was Villanueva for the illegal formation, which really isn't his fault. Somebody else didn't get lined up correctly that made Villanueva an illegal spot. And then there was Filer called for a false start, which was bad, but it was also on the Steelers' 1-yard line. So you spin the ball around basically, and that's the penalty. So 5 of the 6 false starts were on somebody other than an offensive lineman. So it was on Vance. I think it got called for twice. Duck, which was the bogus call, but still called. I forget who the other ones were on. So, it was everybody having to step up and be more attentive and focusing on the details.
Yeah, and when you got an offense that hate to keep using the word fragile, but that's the worst thing that you could do, because you grit your teeth and kind of clench your fists when you see him in 2nd and 9 or 12 or 14, and right. That also sets us up for some Randy Fichtner 2nd and long runs, which is going to cause me to kick my chair out one of these days here. But
well, I wonder what the results of the Steelers drives that incurred a false start. I wonder if they got any points off of those drives. I'd just be curious to look that up.
Yeah, I remember I wrote the ones that were drive killers. I didn't look. I didn't research that out that far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, they're not helpful to your success regardless of what the end result is. Has to be avoided going forward. So I think that was pretty obvious. Anything else from Tomlin on Tuesday that kind of stuck out to you? I think we kind of hit on basically everything.
What you think he had to say about Deontay Johnson?
Just saying, it's a rookie year. There's going to be ebbs and flows to it, and I think that's natural. I think, he's acknowledged, and he's very correct when he says it, that you're getting to a point for these rookies, these college guys, where their season's basically over by now. This time last year, their season's wrapping up. I mean, they got a bowl game in a couple weeks, but they got some time to rest for it and recharge. And for this year, it's, you're still in the middle of the season. Now you got to be at your best. So I think Tomlin's, pointed out, and again, correctly so, that they've been really smart with his snap count, not trying to overload him. I suspect that's one reason why Devin Bush hasn't played as much as maybe we'd like him to, because they're trying to monitor his snaps and make sure they don't hit that dreaded rookie wall at the end of the season, because they know how big a piece places those guys are going to be at the end of the season. But I said it on Monday. I think Johnson had a poor game against the Browns on Sunday, but he'll bounce back. He's been playing well overall all season long. I think he'll have a much better game against the Cardinals.
Yeah, you're waiting for him to have that kind of that next game of his, right, where 4 or 5 catches for 80 to 100 yards or something, along those lines there. He just looked like something else was on his mind the other day. Just not totally into. I'm not worried about him, obviously, but definitely needs a better game than what he had against the Browns there. Mike Tomlin. What else did Mike Tomlin have to say?
The other thing for me was just talking about Pouncey coming back and how significant that is. And that's obvious because it's Marquise Pouncey, but not only just from a play standpoint, but just a captaincy standpoint and kind of what he means to this team. And his presence is just going to boost the spirits and the energy in that locker room even more so. So an obvious statement, but I think a significant, to use a Tomlin word, getting him back in the fold.
And I think the only other significant thing, I think he's looking forward to playing in Arizona. There ought to be a good contingent of Steelers fans show up for that game again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Tomlin basically said we expect Steelers Nation to be out there, and I certainly agree.
Yeah, they're with them being out, people probably selling off their tickets pretty cheap, and look, the Steelers Nation's everywhere. So, all right.
Before we jump into the All-22, I do want to mention kind of one around the NFL thing that might involve the Steelers in some capacity. Ron Rivera, Carolina Panthers head coach, was fired today. They talked David Tepper, the owner, former stakeholder and part owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, now the owner of the Carolina Panthers, said they're going to do their head coaching search after the season. I think the only thing I would worry about there is any sort of front office shuffling, and I think it was Albert Breer that mentioned Kevin Colbert, which is just silly. Colbert's not going to Carolina. The dude's going to retire in a couple of years. But the one name I would be worried about is Brandon Hunt. I think he could be the potential heir to Kevin Colbert whenever he retires in 2 to 3 years. But maybe, Tepper, I'm sure, knows Brandon Hunt. I think he's done a really good job. Was reportedly instrumental in helping acquire Minkah Fitzpatrick and evaluating him and going through that process. So that's one guy I would worry about losing. I know the Eagles had interest in Brandon Hunt a couple of years ago. I think is a guy that you're going to hear potentially a good deal about this offseason in connection with the Carolina job.
And while he's gotten several interviews and not a job yet, Omar Khan's always constantly one of those guys that has his name thrown out there. And with Tepper having his links back, I put it this way, I won't be surprised if they get robbed somewhere in the front office there, because you have to think Tepper looks at the Steelers organization as as a model organization. In fact, would you expect them to replace Rivera with a defensive-minded coach?
Well, I only heard bits and pieces of Tepper's press conference, but he basically hinted at choosing an offensive-minded coach because that's the way the league's going. So I don't know. I mean, you just try to find the best coach that's going to manage people and personnel. My guess is it'll be offensive because that's how the league's kind of structured today, but we'll see.
I don't think Ron Rivera is going to be out of a job long.
No, he'll land back on his feet. Even if it is just as a DC, he'll be in an NFL team somewhere next year.
I agree.
All right, Dave, so just wanted to mention that, because I don't think anyone really knows who Brandon Hunt is, but that's a guy you should probably get to know because, his name may be starting to come up in connection to other jobs, and also I think he'll be in the running for Colbert's job if he's still a Steeler by the time that Colbert announces his retirement. So, Dave, let's go to the All-22 now. I know we're probably both still working through some of the tape there. Anything in particular that stuck out to you? I can talk about Benny Snell a bit, or do you want to lead this thing off?
Look, Benny Snell, I mentioned the other day, yards after contact. That was impressive. I thought he was really decisive a lot of times where he wanted to go with the football. He was one maybe shimmy shake away from maybe breaking a 99-yard touchdown down there behind an excellent block by David DeCastro, moving the middle linebacker furniture out of the way there on that one. I thought it was a fine performance by Benny Snell in that game.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the thing I love the most about Benny Snell is just how he plays to his run style. He doesn't pretend to be somebody he's not. He's not going to try to dance and make 10 guys miss. He's going to run downhill. He's going to run through you. He's going to get yards after contact. He's going to push the pile. So he knows the kind of back that he is. He knows the NFL. You're not going to be able to run away from everybody, especially at his size and his average to below average, straight line speed. So this guy, I mean, I watch every single snap. He's just getting downhill. He's hitting the hole. He's not dancing. He's not making the wrong read. As you said earlier, he's decisive. That's a really important trait for a running back. He's got it. To know who he is and play to that style is really important, to recognize that right away. He's having a really strong last two performances.
And you remember Mike Tomlin a few weeks ago talk about ball placement and all like that. It seems like even though he probably on the touchdown probably could have, I don't know, went maybe more to his right or so. I mean, he knew it was just a short distance there, and he knew the style runner that he could get. That just follow when in doubt, follow DD, right?
Right. Good strategy.
And just stuck that through as well too. So look, I mean, I think they ran a little bit more power than what I thought I remembered in this game. Had the guard on the move a little bit more than what I remembered. I think initially there, we already talked about Jalen Samuels running well. In that game, I think one significant thing, Trey Edmonds was in the backfield on kind of as a fullback on that touchdown there. He went he went the other way to his right there on that play. But hey, I'm high on successful run rates. I'm kind of lowered my that Chase Stewart article on Pro Football Reference has got me more along the lines of being a 4-yard run on 1st and 10 is acceptable. And 50% of the yards needed on second down is a successful run. And right now Benny Snell is their most successful runner, percentage wise. Obviously still not a large selection of tape to go on, but what has he had? 3 explosive runs, leads the team, I think, in that category. In the limited times that he's been asked to handle the short yardage runs, he's been effective in that area. Work on his pass protection now, which he in college he definitely was a willing guy in that category, in that part of his game. So now it's just making sure of picking it up quickly enough and getting to the spot that he needs to get to. So for having, it's a shame they didn't have him during that time that James Conner initially was missing there. It makes you kind of wonder how things would have went different on a couple of them carries there. So he's going to continue. Even when James Conner gets back, I expect him to still get some workload, whether that just be short yardage or what. Anything probably take a little bit of wear and tear off of Conner.
Yeah, I do too. Snell's going to have some sort of role. Obviously, Conner's going to be the guy, but you're very confident knowing that Snell can be a really good complement. And when Conner needs a breather, Snell's going to come in. Only thing Snell has to work on is his celebration, his vertical. He tried to dunk after that touchdown. Clunked it. I saw William Gay getting after him for that. So that's the only advice I would give to Benny Snell. But hopefully there's many more trips to the end zone in his future. I agree. They ran a decent amount of power, and I don't know exactly what it was outside of them just executing it better, but they ran power so much more successfully against the Browns than they did the first matchup 2 weeks ago against Cleveland. So I don't know if it was just that the Browns weren't one-gapping as much and weren't being as aggressive. I think they did a better job of getting to the second level, not having to concentrate on that first level block so much, especially like Al Villanueva. He was able to get to the second level and climb there quicker and cleaner than the first meeting, but they ran power a lot more effectively.
I agree. That David DeCastro can log block, can he? I mean, he great recognition when he gets and knowing when to turn that back in to the player there. There was maybe one. Oh, who was it? The tight end on that side. If the tight ends blocked a little bit better, maybe they'd be able to run a little bit better on the edge.
Yeah, it didn't work every time, and there were some issues on the edge. Even DeCastro missed on a block once or twice where there's some weird things going on. But overall, again, a lot better job. And I thought maybe they would reduce the splits between Foster and Villanueva because they generally have a pretty large split between those two guys. But they didn't seem to do anything different in that regard. So I think it was just flat out execution better, just quicker to the spot, cleaner to work to the second level, to pick off some of these linebackers, not let those guys run free. The backs hitting the hole correctly and getting downhill and getting yards after context. I don't think it was anything magical or mystical. They just executed better, and you execute in the run game, you're going to move the ball, control the clock, and that's what they did in the second half of the Browns game.
And back to that goal line run. That was a significant run, man. I don't know about you live. I was holding my breath there.
In the sense of, could they get it in? Near
their own goal line after that punt was down there. I was like, I was great. I had my fist clenched there.
Yeah, we've seen the very safety punt too often this year.
But you get 11 yards there, it gives you some breathing room, man. So I thought that was a very significant run there, and obviously DeCastro led. Filer held his block good on that play, and like I said, you don't know how that thing would have turned out, but if he makes that safety miss, I don't know, maybe the piano would have got heavy at some point there, but he would have had a good chunk of yardage on that one.
And who was that?
Go ahead.
DeCastro moving, was that one of the rookies? Talkie or Mac Wilson? Welcome into the NFL.
Yeah, I did. It wasn't Schobert.
Right, it wasn't Schobert.
But I got a kick out of him saying that Taki. It sounds dirty for some reason. I don't know, 12-year-old, 8-year-old kid coming at me, which really the 8-year-old kid kind of stays in me. Anyway, but I kind of got a giggle every time I heard Ian Eagle Taki.
Just watching DeCastro, just watch his feet and how quick he is off the ball. His first 2 steps. Mike Munchak always preached how important your first 2 steps are: pass protection, run blocking, being able to get your feet off the ground and get some momentum and get moving. You just watch DeCastro, his first 2 steps are always excellent. He's always firing off the football. That allows him to generate the power that he does. So I don't know if I've ever seen an offensive lineman with better feet than David DeCastro. I know that's super high praise. I'm sure there's probably somebody better out there, but man, DeCastro has some of the best footwork, I think, in football.
I wonder if Al Villanueva is expecting a check this week, because he probably feels like he had the weekend off, not having to go again. I thought Villanueva played a good game. I really do. And, of course, not having to go against Myles Garrett, I'm sure he had that didn't hurt his feelings there. But I thought top to bottom, even in the run blocking department, not want to run Al Villanueva's big strengths, obviously. I thought overall he played well. I was very impressed with him. DeCastro were the two that stuck out that I focused on the most. And then I thought B.J. Finney represented himself well at center, and kudos for him. 2 games back-to-back, putting down some good tape at the center position.
Yeah, I thought the snaps were better out of shotgun. I just thought overall the offensive line did a great job top to bottom. I agree with you on Villanueva. I thought Filer was particularly strong in the run game. I think the sack that they gave up, I put on Devlin Hodges and not Matt Filer. How do you think Foster's done this year? Do you have an overall feeling on Foster? Have you seen his play slip at all? Do you kind of see the same steady Ramon Foster at left guard?
When it doesn't stick out negatively, throughout kind of a course of a 20, you turn around and then you digest 8 games after the season, he looks like the same guy.
Right. Yeah.
So I really, he's missed a couple games, obviously, right? But other than the missed games, he's a large man. He's hard to get around anyway, and I think just the communication factor with him and Villanueva able to hand off, stay on the same levels and hand off the twist and the stunts effectively and that kind of thing. He's never been, as soon as I say he's not the world's best puller, he pulls to the right and just flattens somebody.
Right.
Obviously, his short area stuff isn't the greatest, kind of lumbers more so, but I don't think I've found myself many times saying, oh, yikes,
I'm with you. I haven't seen the drop-off. I still see the functional strength, ability to anchor. I thought he played one of his better games against the Browns. And I sit there and sometimes go, man, Foster looks slow out there. But then I realize it's Ramon Foster. He's never looked fast. It's like Hines Ward. He's never looked fast in his entire life. So, how do you judge it? But I think Foster has continued to play at a good level. Have you seen a little bit of drop-off? Yeah, I think you have a little bit. I think this team will have a very interesting decision to make next year about, what do you do with Foster? What do you do with Finney? Again, I think it's very unlikely that both guys are on your roster in 2020. Either you're going to dump Foster and re-sign Finney, or Finney's going to go somewhere else to play and get paid like a starter, which he deserves to be. So I think a very interesting decision ahead, but Foster's definitely hanging in there, one of the oldest offensive linemen in football.
Boy, and throw on top of about 35 times a game, he's having to turn around, look at a quarterback, and then tap the center. That would, that exercise would probably give me a 1-pack ab.
That would be enough. That would be exercise.
Yeah. Look, I have a 0-pack ab.
There's a 6-pack just under something else.
Oh, there's been plenty of 6-packs over the years. Not anymore though. It's the wrong kind of 6-packs.
To go back to the offense line, I would love to be able to ask Sean Surratt about the stances. I know we're getting like really knee deep into O-line talk here, but just sometimes I would love to know how do they decide who gets in a 3-point stance, who gets in a 2-point stance, who's up and who's down. Like I think on the Snell touchdown, Villanueva even has his hand down. Villanueva never has his hand at the ground, but Foster was up. Foster was playing in a 2-point stance. So I would just love to know what the decision is and how they decide on how you're going to play hand up and hand down.
Yeah, and Villanueva's talked about it in the past about being, I think, just more comfortable,
Right. Yeah, I imagine it's a comfort thing. But Foster, why was he? Because Foster's usually hand down, but he was hand up on that play. Villanueva was down. I just wonder what those conversations are like, and if that's something they get to decide, or they decided in practice by Surratt. But I know that's something that 99% of people don't care about.
Yeah, and look, I try to look sometimes and say, did they tip this, or
right?
See if there's any kind of self scouting, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that, at least with my untrained eye.
All right, Dave, anything else from the offense from the All-22 you want to touch on? Duck, I thought, was kind of just as advertised watching him the first time. Through his ball placement, like I said earlier, on 2 of those deep balls, the Washington 44-yarder, the 31-yarder left sideline to Washington for the free play, just excellent placement, just really good stuff, and just kind of reminds you that, or makes you forget, I should say, that this guy's a rookie and this dude's out there throwing dimes.
Yeah, just kind of effortlessly too. Not a whole, not a big wind up really. As far as I saw it, I thought I was interested to see on that touchdown to James Washington how effectively he held the safety. Of all the throws that he made, of the deep throws, the touchdown one might have been his worst. Just from the sheer fact that once again, when that ball was in the air, I thought maybe that was going to get picked, but he did a good enough job holding that middle of the field safety there with what was going on the left side. Of course, the route combinations on top would it help with that, but I mean the other deep balls were there. He'd probably like to have the one back that we talked about the other day to Deontay Johnson deep down the field. I can't remember what has the air distance on that one, Alex.
It was 45 yards, I would guess.
Okay,
pretty
40,
far.
I think I had 42 maybe on that. Probably needed to be 45.
Yeah.
But it looked like that was quarters coverage, and Deontay just split it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was a fine decision to take a chance. As the ball just a little underthrown, and then Redwine, their rookie safety, made a really nice play.
Deontay had a couple steps on him initially there, so maybe if that ball gets out a little bit earlier there, that's a time. He had the high throw, I think, on the one over to the left sideline in the second half to Deontay. I bet he would like to have back.
Well, Johnson stopped on that. I don't know if that was correct or not, because it looked like a smash concept, and Johnson kind of tried to settle, and I think Hodges wanted him to keep running it, so maybe some slight miscommunication there, but I'm not entirely sure.
And then one other one on... I think on a mesh across the middle there, was that a second or a third down? Second and 7, third and 7, where you had Deontay coming left to right over the middle, but the linebackers did a good job of they were swapping off and handing off in the middle of the field. I thought maybe he could have hit Johnson on one over the middle, and I think on that one he ended up, was that one that he rolled out, just threw it away over to the side there. I'm trying to remember. Just got through looking more at defensive play there, but not many times where I said, oh, he missed a guy.
Mm-hmm. The big thing for him, and this was the same story coming in relief for Rudolph against the Bengals, was he still wants to leave the pocket a little too early at kind of the first sign and feel of pressure. He wants to bail. And
he wants to drift.
Right. Yeah. He's got to learn to trust that he's playing behind the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line, not the Samford offensive line. And Samford, I'm betting there were a lot of times where there was the right decision to bail and move, and you have the mobility because guys aren't as fast at the FCS level to run away and extend the play. That's not going to fly at the NFL level, and that the Steelers O-line can recover and they can be able to protect the pocket and keep things clean. So that's still one thing he's got to work at, is just hanging in the pocket, climbing, hitching up, and not trying to bail and run to his right at the first sign of pressure.
Yeah. I would agree on that. Look, I mean, they're not taking. I mean, he had the one sack, obviously. Yeah, just getting and over time, the more as Mike Tomlin says, in helmet perspective. that he gets. Hopefully some of that stuff will come and he's really, he's yet to really kind of extend the play, right?
Well, he's tried to run away, but it's hurt him. I mean, it's not about just the sacks allowed. It's just, you roll out, you lose half the field, you're trying to throw on the run, your accuracy suffers, your limits and time are all limited. So your options and time are all limited, I should say. So it's not even about just the sacks, but it's just about being able to hang in the pocket. And because there's been times where if he would have hung in the pocket, he had an open receiver if he just waited another second, but he's bailing out and he makes life harder on himself and his receivers.
Just don't turn the damn football over.
Yeah, and he did a good job of that overall. I mean, he had the pick, and there was the fumble on that 3rd and goal, which was a potentially disastrous play. But overall, he's taking a profit. He's being smart with the football. He's checking it down when it needs to be. So again, all things that are uncommon for a guy in his spot, being a UDFA tryout guy a couple months ago.
Yeah, more than you could ever hope or imagine or wish for right now with him. So and I think Tomlin's got the right idea with him right now too. Just do enough to get him prepared for the next game.
And I love what Tomlin said, and he said this on Sunday after the game, but he repeated it today, and I think it got more press coverage today, and he was asked about, how do you handle Duck and how do you show confidence in him and do you give him special attention during the week and work with him the way you work with the defense? And Tomlin said, no, I work with him the same I would work with a normal week, a normal quarterback situation, because that's how I show confidence. If I talked to him all the time and always got in his ear and asked if you were okay and all that stuff, that wouldn't show confidence. The fact that I'm not talking to him any more than I would normally to a normal starting quarterback kind of shows that confidence in him. And so that's the value of an experienced head coach who's been down this road before, has been in tough situations with quarterbacks that are inexperienced or just got in the building, and you're rotating revolving door quarterbacks. That's happened before. Think back to the Mike Vick days and back during Ben's suspension, you got Batch and Dennis Dixon and guys like that. So those are all the things as a head coach that you learn from those years prior, and you draw on that experience to help you now. So I just want to point that out. I love that answer by Tomlin. I think that just kind of shows the value of his experiences and how that shapes you as a coach to make you a better coach.
And look, he is what he is, and he right now he's an undrafted rookie quarterback, with just a handful of starts underneath him. So don't try to micromanage him too much. You get him thinking about, well, don't do this, don't do that, don't make sure this, and I'm sure there are teachable moments for sure, and I think he got a few this past week, outside the pocket and understanding, okay, it's okay to take a sack, in certain, especially late game situations there, and there's right times to push the football down the field. Look, that throw to Vance McDonald on the final. That was a bit of a gutsy throw.
The 3rd down one, the Vance side, yeah,
right.
It was.
I mean, that's a tight little squeeze right there, and Vance made it, got the 1st down, and you move it on along there. So, you just don't want to make things too overly complicated on it, but at the same time, you want to try to progress on what he's shown that he's able to do, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think they're handling him really well so far, and they have to, because it's a delicate, difficult spot, and I think they're doing a good job, and he's responding with some really positive play. Anything else from the offense you want to discuss, or you want to flip over to the defensive all 22?
Just once again, the wide receivers and the blocking. That really caught my eye in this game, just the willingness and the effectiveness of the wide receivers blocking. That's always something that, obviously being a fan of the Steelers and following that, that's imperative that they do. They play that wide receiver position, and just, several times I saw them doing that there. So that was good to see. Kane, I think I highlighted this the other day, breaking that tackle and getting the 1st down on the 2nd and 4 or whatever. And let me tell you that pass interference in the end zone there to Kane, that wasn't a bad ball placement there either. And if his arm in hook there, maybe he comes down with that one. There as well too. So for a guy that you basically just got off the street playing, making some key catches, and is even drawn now, that's 2 pass interference penalties he's drawn, right?
He has 4 targets this year. They were a 35-yard completion, a DPI, a 5-yard 1st down, and a DPI. So, good things have happened when you've targeted Deon Kane. And then somebody tweeted this to me, and I kind of started paying attention to it more after I saw the tweet. Was he's actually like almost been open on every single play. Like he's gotten open a lot. Some of that just scheme, but I think he's doing a really nice job.
I mean, there's some hidden yardage plays in there for sure. When you
Absolutely.
talk about the pass interference plays, because I mean they obviously cashed that one in on the one in the end zone there, right? So and the longer you have him around, the more you're going to be able to start doing with him as well too. So I don't think we've seen the last of him, down the sideline there.
Yeah, and you're going to see him in camp next year. He's going to be on a futures contract for sure, him and Kareth White. And you're right about the blocking. I think I'm going to do a video on that for a little later in the week. Over the last 2 weeks, their downfield blocking, and even on some of the pass plays. Like there was the one for Jalen Samuels on Sunday, I think the 21-yarder he had left side. Deontay Johnson's running a curl route, sees Samuels catch the ball 20 yards away from him, turns, blocks the corner, and gives Samuels some more space downfield.
That's the one I highlighted that he got another 7 yards on, right? That we talked about the other day, right? On the right side there.
I think that was
the okay, we'll probably talk about a different one there. I think the one I'm talking about was the one where Sheldon Richardson went into into the heater.
I'm talking about a different play.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about the catch by Samuel. I think that was Johnson on the end around when.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, I'm talking about Samuel's his 20-something yard reception. Maybe it was 15 yards. Either way, but I'll point that one out.
I remember that one now. Now that you said said it. Okay, good.
But overall, yeah, Washington, Deontay, Tevin Jones, I should say, all making an impact with their downfield blocking. And I'm going to pull up all the 15-yard runs they've had this year, or the last 2 weeks, I should say, and I'm guessing on all 4 of those because they've had 4 of them. There were key downfield blocks to help make that play possible.
Look, just run better. Run more successful early. If they can. And once again, their success rates were very acceptable levels, especially these last 2 games. And that's what we're looking for. I don't think it could have been worse, but you get close to that 50% mark is where you want to be on run success rates.
Yeah. And the last stat I want to give you for the offense is, let me go ahead and pull this up here, is just talking about just a slower start. And again, I'm not saying you have to throw the ball deep. I don't really care what you do. You just got to solve this problem. The first 2 drives for Pittsburgh this year, they are 30th in plays, 32nd in yards, 29th in time of possession, 32nd in scoring drives, tied for last in touchdown drives, and they have the most turnovers of anybody in football in their first 2 drives. So you got to come up with a better script, a better way to start. I know that's not all on Fichtner. There's been some plays where players have screwed up, and think about JuJu's drop that could extend the play against the Colts. It turns into a pick and stuff like that. So it's a player and coaching issue. But regardless of what it is, regardless of how you got to fix it, they got to come out of the gate quicker because they are the worst team in football on their first 2 drives.
Where do all of our run game alternatives go?
All right. Yeah, I didn't see it. Did they run an RPO?
No, I didn't see them. I looked. I don't remember spotting one.
They did it twice against the Bengals when Hodges came in. I don't know if they ran one last week though.
I mean, you can't tell me there's not an instance or 2 during the game. I mean, I know there is. Just from looking at tape where you got the numbers on the outside, you just a quick wide receiver screen to the outside to Deontay Johnson and get him out in space. Now I know they did try that one that we talked about that who was it? Sam Hubbard got the ball on, but just use a little bit different formation or whatnot, and maybe. When the field's flipped the other way, why not do it again? I mean, that's what we're talking about here is just minor adjustments anyway, with your formations and route combinations and things like that. So, I think we need to see a little bit more run game alternatives here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it wouldn't hurt. I'm open to any ideas at this point. Maybe you see some more
quick slants. I mean, when's the last time we really saw them open up with a quick slant? Was it early in the season against was it San Francisco where where Deontay kind of alligator arm one coming from left to right there early in the game or whatnot, and those kind of things. Yeah, let's start with getting a first down in the first series and go from there.
That would be refreshing because it's.
Although I hate to play Debbie Downer here, but are you familiar with the Debbie Downer character on SNL?
I am. I've seen the GIF. Yep.
Okay. Those are some funny segments there, especially the one when they're supposedly at Disney World. I think Lindsay Lohan's in that one and all that. That will get you cracked cracking up right there. But Arizona Cardinals defense, as bad as they've been this year, have allowed, unless I've researched it wrong, have allowed just 2 opening possession offensive touchdowns all season.
So not a good sign for the Steelers going forward. But yeah, they only have 1 field goal on the opening possession this year. 1 scoring drive. That was a field goal against San Francisco, which was aided by the turnover. So again, the first and second drive, Pittsburgh's been terrible. I want to see that change.
Man, even if you just drive down and 10-play field goal drive to start things off,
right. Or even just like flip the field, pin them back,
yeah.
get to the 50, something. I mean, they're doing nothing to start these games.
And I'm done. I'll complain about second and long runs, but that's not going to fix anything.
Yeah. No, it probably won't. But I'm with you. All right, Dave. Let's flip to the defense now. I think all the things we talked about on Monday's podcast probably apply here. I don't know if there's anything totally new that we've seen. I just like, despite all the injuries and things they've had to go through, I think because this group's kind of has gotten a lot of time together and chances to gel and settle in. You're seeing a lot of different formation, personnel groupings, and different looks and different dime packages and things like that. So I think they're a lot more comfortable, a lot more very defensively, and it's going to provide them more answers to respond to defenses, which comes in really handy against the Cardinals, a team that's going to give you a lot of different personnel groupings and formations and 4 receiver sets and stuff you might not normally see on a given week. So I think just the talent and continuity is allowing Keith Butler to be able to come up with better and more varied answers to offensive problems.
I think they're doing a better job of disguising some stuff pre-snap and then rotating down too. I think that kind of stuck out in this game this last week. The ability to do a little bit more with Minka, heck, on that pass breakup of his, I mean, what a great read on that. I mean, it was kind of telegraphed, if you will, but and he's obviously mad at himself, which I'm sure he, if you look at that read, if he gets that ball, if he tries to intercept that instead of batting that down, he might have his 3rd touchdown right now. But I go back to, I think, what I said the other day, man. This 4-man rush of theirs is just ferocious, and it makes it feel at times that they're playing with a guy, an extra guy in the secondary there overall. And I think, like I said, I did note, doing a little bit better pre-snap. I think on the touchdown, there was a little bit of pre-snap miscommunication with Barron and I think Mike Hilton. On that. So you got to clean that. Unfortunately, it seems like Mike Hilton. Mark Barron's always in the miscommunication between X and Y. There. So need to definitely kind of get that cleaned up. But I thought they did good on a lot of bracket stuff with those two receivers of the Browns that obviously deserve that. And just once again the pass rush there. I mean, Watt. Gosh. And another thing that we talked about the other day about Dupree and Watt switching sides. Dupree had a nice run stop on that left side over there. Beat I think the tight end was coming over. Tight end kind of just. I don't know if he wanted to make a big business decision there or not, but Dupree snuck under him and for the run stop there. But the fact that they're able to do what they're able to do with 4-man rush just really, really means a lot, and it really will change the way that, or at least to me, that I kind of look at this defense. Not only the rest of this year, but moving forward into future years. Because look, they had those high sack totals, the last couple of years, but they were having to do it, blitzing or more than 4 guys a lot of times there. So it makes a huge difference when you're able to get that play. Cameron Hayward, man, just playing fantastic. Hargrave, I mean, just all of them.
Take a guess of what the percentage of snaps where the Steelers sent just 3 or 4 men rushing against Cleveland Sunday. It might not be as high as you think, but take a guess of what that percentage is.
I'll say 68.
We're almost right there. 2/3 of the time, 66.7%.
Okay.
So pretty high amount for that. For the year, they're only blitzing 5+. I just did the defensive charting. I'm gonna have an article for Wednesday morning on this. About 32% of the time, which isn't super low, but I think it is a little bit lower than seasons past. So yeah, I'm with you. They're able to rush 4 effectively. And to go back to something I said earlier about all the different kind of personnel groupings and looks they've given opposing offenses this year. The Steelers have used They're traditional nickel, 3-4, traditional dime, a 1-5-5, a 3-5-3, a literal 4-3 defense, a 1-4-6 dime they unveiled this past week, and 2 snaps from goal line. So they have just having a lot of variations defensively, and as you said, they're disguising coverage as well. They're doing stuff with Cam Sutton, rotating him to play kind of some safety spots and play some single high and play inverted cover 3 where the safeties roll down and Sutton becomes the middle field post safety. So just a lot of answers, a lot of variety, and a lot of talent, which makes this defense even more effective.
I don't think we see much of any zero coverage, do we?
No, but I'm okay with that because you don't have to send the house. You can just send 4 and, covers years when you're
right.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Right. I mean, you're not having to do that, which leads yourself vulnerable a lot of times to one guy winning on one-on-one and taking it to the house. In those situations. Whereas in the past, we've seen, a fairly, not extremely, not a lot of teams go zero in a game anyway. But let's see, what else was there on coverages? The thought just flipped my mind. But there were the things, the pre-snap disguises that caught my eye, and the ability to do a little bit more. I think with Minka is helping out as well too.
I've seen more 2-man the last few weeks. I don't know if you've gotten that feeling too, but they played a lot of 2-man last year on 3rd and 6, 3rd and long plus, or 3rd and 6 plus, 3rd and long. So, and I've kind of seen that more the last 2 weeks. I think it's one of the most effective third down coverages. You take away inside breaking routes, you take away the deep ball, you force quarterbacks to throw the ball outside the numbers to the sideline. It's tough, and when you can rush 4, drop 7 into coverage, I think it's one of the most effective coverages they can call on 3rd and long.
Boy, can you imagine this that front with Tuitt still in there?
I'd love it. But they're doing a great job replacing them.
They really are.
Anything else defensively? There's a train coming, so you pick up a new topic for me, Dave.
Vince Williams, that significant play on the 3rd and 4. I know it was only, I think, 3-0 at the time there, but it was a ball around I think the Browns minus 40 in that situation there. You're probably itching to get your offense. You obviously don't want to give up more points in that situation there, but what a key read and him kind of doing that. Guard didn't. That poor right guard didn't know, should I stay with him or should I go to the next level on this thing on there? What is significant? Not only just tackling, sniffing that thing out, because even if that gets 2 yards, who knows the way the Browns have run the football this year? Maybe they go for it on a 4th and 2 near the near midfield on that. So just a very significant play on that by Vince Williams. What else stuck out? We talked about Bush. I thought on the TV tape with Bush possibly overrunning, not being in the right gaps on those, and I think you pointed out a couple of those on the Twitter machine earlier today. And look, that's going to happen with a young player. At times maybe trying to do too much. And when we saw Ryan Shazier do it and all like that. So sometimes you just got to trust the defense. I'm sure that he's getting a lot of that from Keith Butler this year. Trust the defense. Don't try to do too much in those instances that cause you to get out of position there, because one of those things, you lose control on one of them cutbacks like that could cost you 40 yards in a hurry.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, this is the Bill Belichick line, but I've heard Keith Butler repeat a lot, do your job. This defense is talented enough where one guy doesn't have to do everything. It's not like maybe Ryan Shazier for defenses a couple years ago. We had to kind of be the guy and make all the plays. You got talent top to bottom, starters and depth to be able to make plays. Bush has to do his job, and this defense is going to win. If everyone does their job, everyone communicates, there's no breakdowns, this defense is going to succeed more times than not. So just the kind of realization of just do your role. You have enough talent around you. If you don't make the play, the guy next to you is going to make the play instead, and that's fine.
Are you a bit worried about them thinking they had to run blitz so much early?
No, I just think that their number one goal was to shut down Chubb. Again, Tomlin talked about that openly, so I think that was just their intent. It's not something that they do every week. It's not something that they have to do. I don't think they're going to do it as often or frequently against, the Cardinals, whose run offense isn't nearly as strong, isn't nearly as big of a threat, especially with Kyler Murray and his threat to run. You probably don't want to run blitz as much in case he decides to keep one and tuck and run. So no, I just think it was a specific game plan thing where they really wanted to attack the run and try to take away Nick Chubb.
I don't suppose we had the missed tackle report yet, do we?
Let me check my email box. I don't believe so yet. If I get that later tonight, it might be a little higher than I thought, but I just thought overall, even the missed tackles that did happen, they typically didn't go for a lot of yards. Guys got the ball carrier on the ground pretty quickly. So even if the number isn't the best. It's probably about average, maybe a little bit above. I saw that tackling was decent overall, especially some of the open field tackling, where if you don't make the tackle, then it's going to go for a big play. I thought that was really good. We don't have the report, by the way. I just checked.
Okay, and we see guys, Steven Nelson, not afraid to come up and tackle. Look, I mean that one of the things that attracted him was just his physicality of play back when he was at Oregon State. I think I was the one that wrote up the pre-draft report on him and all. So it was with him being a pre-draft visitor, I think that year as well too. I wasn't overly surprised when they signed him like they did. I'm trying to find out missed tackles according to what Pro Football Focus has here. They have 17.
Ooh, that's just defense, or is that special teams too?
I think that's just defense.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know how they define it.
That seems high. I mean, it felt like there. I don't know. Maybe they gave 4 on that goal line. I mean, on that Kareem Hunt touchdown there. But they've got Terrell Edmonds missing 4. Devin Bush 2. Was that the one that he was actually held? No, that couldn't have been that one. I don't remember those 2 missed tackles on Devin Bush there. Mike Hilton 2, Bud Dupree 2, Joe Hayden 2. Yeah, they've got it looks like about 8 players with missed tackles in their total up 17. So we'll have to see what Josh Carney has to say.
Yeah, and even if the numbers, like I said, are high, I mean, I know Edmonds missed one in the hole and Hunt spun off, and I think got like a 14 to 17-yard run off of that, which wasn't good. But I think about Edmonds making that tackle, I believe, on Kareem Hunt in the right flat. That was a big play. I don't know if that was third down or not, but it was a big open field tackle on Kareem Hunt. I think about Mike Hilton, the Jarvis Landry 16-yard reception, I think second half, middle of the field, it gave up the play. Mayfield able to extend it, but if Hilton doesn't make that tackle right there, that might be a touchdown. Landry's got a lot of green grass in front of him. So I think about just the situational open field kind of gotta have it tackles. I thought they did a good job of that, of not allowing those big chunk plays.
Absolutely. And what did they give up explosive play wise in that game? Two or 3 explosive plays against the Browns?
I think 3, but again, the Browns' long was of 23 yards, whereas opposed to the first meeting where they got 2 of 40 plus. Both of those ended up resulting in touchdowns later on in the drive. So while they allowed technically, I think, 3 explosive plays, there weren't any double explosive plays, nothing close to that. I think that was one of the big key differences for why the defense played better than it did in the first meeting.
Right.
I think that was about it that I had. Yeah, Devin Bush, I thought, overran the gap a couple of plays. Barron seemed to do okay. Special teams, Kareth White broke 2 tackles on his kick return, so I think it was blocked decently, but White also broke 2 tackles. And if your kick returner does that, odds are you're going to have a pretty good return.
Boy, it sure would be nice to get a super plus one,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be, but to take it, I'll take a 34-yarder.
All right. Where should we go now?
I think you want to talk about our friend Dave and what he's got as far as popcorn wise. That's going to make a good. You're probably going to load up for Christmas, aren't you? Some popcorn.
Yeah, I normally load up anyway there. So on that, but Dave at where is it here? Goodies Original Popcorn. I should have it memorized there. I just call him Dave all the time when I go out there. But Goodies Original Popcorn. That's Goodies with a Y. It's GOODYS Original Popcorn. You can get the popcorn from Dave by on his website at or goodieslv.com. It's GOODYSLV.com. Gluten-free, non-GMO seeds, 100% coconut oil, non-trans fat cheese. I don't know what all that means, Alex, but I think that means it's good for me on top of it, and I need it to be because I got a $25 a week popcorn habit since I've got turned on to Dave's delicious handcrafted popcorn here. The flavors are look, I only have stuck with 3. I know a lot of our listeners have already ordered from Dave and tried a lot of his other flavors. My 3 favorite flavors: spicy buffalo. I can't get enough of that stuff. You get you a nice glass of iced tea alongside that. You eat a whole bag of that before you know it there. The caramel corn, fantastic, and the Fruity Loops just taste just like Fruit Loops popcorn there. So those are the only 3 I have tried so far. He's got extra butter, cheese, spicy buffalo, jalapeno cheddar, white cheddar, salt and vinegar, dill pickle. I used to work for a restaurant years ago that it was Catfish House back in Florida that had fried dill pickles. Have you ever eaten fried dill pickles?
I've had fried pickles before. I don't know if they've been the best, marquee fried pickles, but yeah, they're good.
This place was just known for that, and I don't eat pickles, so I've never have tried them. But I know that I don't know if I'd like the dill pickle popcorn, but he evidently sells a lot of that. Loaded baked potato, pizza, chili lime, kettle corn, churro. I don't even know what is churro. Do you know?
I think we had this discussion before. It's Mexican kind of dessert sweet bread of some sort.
Fruity Loops, caramel, sour nerds, and it also has a goodie mix, cheese and caramel there. But check Dave out. He's a good human. He's a local small business here in Las Vegas, just starting to branch out and get his online business. And he wanted me to tell everybody that have ordered so far. Thank you very much. He even got an order. I think we already talked about in Afghanistan to some of the troops out there as well too. And he was ecstatic to get that. I think he was more surprised too that most of his deliveries have gone to places in the United States other than Pittsburgh. So, and we got a large listenership, obviously, in Pittsburgh. So make sure you check out Dave. Use promo code Steelers for free shipping. Go to goodies, GOODYSLV.com.
All right, and thank you, Dave, for your support of the podcast. Let's get to some reader emails to close out the show.
Are we at that point already?
I think so, unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about from an all-22 standpoint, but I think we covered it pretty well.
All right, let's see here. This one from Shrikant, Steelers Comp, 2016 Denver Broncos. Huge fan, as you guys know. What do you think of the 2016 Broncos as a comp to the Steelers this year? High-end defense, erratic offense driven by poor quarterback play. They finished tops in defensive DVOA, but near last in offensive DVOA. Realize it's pretty ludicrous to think the Steelers can win the Super Bowl. However, this looks like closest comparable. I'm trying to remember that defense of the Broncos. I mean, that's obviously what the Tim Tebow year, right? Do you remember that? Do you remember that Broncos defense that year? I wonder what they're
2016 or 2011.
Yeah, he's got 2016. Maybe it was 2011.
Yeah, Tebow was 11. That was the team that beat the Pittsburgh in the Meredith Thomas game. 16 wasn't. That
right.
That was Peyton Manning in 16, right?
Right. So maybe he's got 2016. He has 2016 written here. I wonder if he meant 2011.
Well, he might have meant 16 because that Broncos offense, I think, kind of stunk in 16. Manning was like at the very end of his rope that year, right? Or no, was Manning the quarterback in 16?
Oh Lord.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, that defense, I'm looking at it now, 4 point, they had the lowest defensive adjusted net yards per passing attempt number in the league that year. So that's obviously the year that he's talking about. And that was the year
after Manning.
Yeah, this was Trevor Seaman, Paxton Lynch, and yeah.
Yeah. As you can probably tell by our conversation, I don't remember the 16 Broncos enough.
I'm not either.
But if you're going to have the comparison, and the stats kind of seem to tell that, of a below average to at times bad offense with a defense that's playing really well, yeah, that's probably a fair comparison. That Broncos team went 9-7, did not make the playoffs, so let's hope the Pittsburgh Steelers have a at least slightly better fate.
Let's see. It looks like their quarterbacking that year had a adjusted net yards per attempt number of 5.89. Overall, and their defensive number, as I mentioned, was super low at 4. Look, the Steelers are at what I write 4.9 right now. But if you go back from week 3 on, it's like 3.99 with this defense, and that's no joke, folks. I mean that is no joke whatsoever. And one would think, looking at the schedule the rest of the way, that they should be able to lower that number a little bit more. And obviously, you would think that they're going to do their part in these final 4 games and a few more sacks along the way here and some turnovers to boot. So I suppose that's a good comparison as any.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense on paper, at least from a broad standpoint. And yeah, hopefully they get more sacks. They're on pace for 57. Still, fingers crossed for that 60 mark. Got to have like one really good game where they get 5 or 6 sacks, but I think 60 is still in range.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought back to the Tebow Broncos all of a sudden there. B. Fry writes in, hey guys, I know Tomlin went high school whiteboard style at halftime to make some defensive adjustments. Wondering if you pinpointed what, if any, of them that might have been after the All-22. Also, you guys have said the Ravens are likely to not need the Week 17 win badly and could bench players, but aren't they still fighting for the 1 seed? A loss could put them on the road to Foxborough. Seems like a big deal to me. Look, here's the thing with them. I mean, obviously the Ravens would have to win their next 3 games, and then they get the Patriots to lose a game. And if that happens, then that number 1 seed, I think, is theirs, right?
I think so. I don't know if I said
they're tied record-wise with New England, but they own the head-to-head on them right now. So even if they finish tied with New England in record-wise at the end of the season, they would get the number 1 seed.
Correct. Yeah, so they got to go into Week 17 a game ahead of the Patriots record-wise to have the 1 seed locked up. I don't know if I said it was likely they were going to rest. I said it was probably more likely than not, just based on how it's going to go. They still may play their guys. I'm not 100% sure, but it is possible that they sit them, so that would be good news for Pittsburgh, obviously.
All right, what, if anything, did you pinpoint second-half adjustments defensively?
I need to go through that specifically because I was looking at the game a little more broadly, kind of just going through the tape, trying to pick out individual stuff. So they might have run blitzed a little bit less. I mean, it was just the fact that Cleveland just didn't have the ball that much. Now, we're into the Steelers defense were a big reason why the Browns only had 25 total plays, but I think they probably played some more two-man, maybe a little less run blitzes. The contain was better. I don't know exactly if that was anything schematically done differently or just executing better. So I'll have to go back and check and maybe have an article on that later in the week.
Okay, and I didn't pick up anything significant. What I do is I divide it up. I watch the offensive tape and then the defensive tape and make notes, and then I go back through it from here until we talk again on Friday there. But nothing huge stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if we see something, we'll let you know.
AA writes in, love the site, the writers, and all you do. Coach Tomlin had a dubious record with clock management and his challenges. However, this year he seems to do better with both. I can't remember any bad clock management decisions, and only the challenge that I remember being dubious was the second pass interference challenge in the Colts game. I would love the Steelers Depot to do a year-end review on both clock management and challenges. The one loss of challenges I do not believe shows that the challenge was a good one, as evident by the poor ruling on the punt being down legally at the 1 last Sunday against the Browns. Just a thought. In fact, Mike Tomlin commented on it. He never received clarification on that. Isn't that what he said about the down punt?
Correct, but he also said he basically wasn't seeking much clarification either, I guess. So there you go.
I don't know. You throw the dice out there. As far as clock management and all goes, sometimes, man, I know there's books written on it, and I know we could try to fish through a lot of the obvious stuff, on this, but the man's going to go by his gut anyway.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to go back and review that. I hear what you're saying, but I try to just kind of move on from some of that stuff. I mean, I agree that Colts challenge will still burn me up. That was, I think, the worst challenge he's made of his coaching career.
That's pretty strong right there.
I mean, I easy to say because I'm not thinking about other challenges, but it was a terrible challenge, which had to cost them the game. That's a play we'd be talking about a whole lot.
We'll definitely probably be looking at some of the challenges or whatnot. The off season gets real long there, especially when you get into June or whatnot as well. Wide receivers, last show you talked and joked about the late round flyer from Alabama or Clemson. I would say we got that in Deion Kane. I also believe forget the wide receiver 2, etc., and look at the group as a whole and how they complement each other. I like JuJu, DJ, JW, and Kane. Thoughts? Here's the thing. I still need to see more from Kane because, and I think I mentioned this when I looked at just his senior year targets at Clemson. Man, there was a lot of just 7 and 12 yard out stuff to go along with the deep stuff there. So I just want to see a broader route tree ability there. That's one thing I just did not pick up on in just analyzing his senior year at Clemson there. So I still think maybe kind of, as Alex and I kind of said, that 6'2" to 6'4" guy that really's got the jets that is always usually there in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kane's a worthy flyer, in his own right, and carry him camp next year and see if he can compete. And I imagine he'll be right in the mix. You're still probably going to address receiver just to give yourself some additional depth. But yeah, I think Kane's done a really nice job in 2 weeks, coming in cold, learning a new playbook, a new system. Not easy to do, especially for a young guy with not a lot of NFL experience. So I've been happy with the job he's done so far.
I mean, look, we don't expect Holton to be back on this roster. At least we don't think so next year, right?
Well, I mean, he's got a lot of special teams value. He's been playing really well in the coverage unit, so he should be back. I mean, will he make it? Who knows? But I mean, there's a role, just not as a receiver.
I mean, Ryan Switzer, I mean, Tevin Jones will obviously compete for a spot. You got Kane. You can still add to that room though.
Yeah, I think a late day 3 pick is fifth round, 6th round kind of guy pick is where I would kind of go with receiver as we stand today. But overall for the group, Deontay, JuJu, Washington, I think they're all playing well, and I agree with that sentiment.
All right, Dave and Alex, this one's from Lenny. Lenny from Cleveland. Boy, I bet you having some fun there, Lenny in Cleveland. Dave and Alex, I can't believe how good this defense is playing. Dave, I completely agree with you about the key to their success being putting pressure on a quarterback with the front four. Can you imagine how much better we would be if with Tuitt playing? Also, Dave, you made a comment on Monday's podcast about Baltimore sitting their starters against us. Baltimore still needs to win out. Yeah, look, it's not a definite that they will. But I mean, if you look at the way they're playing right now, who's going to beat Baltimore in the next 3 games? But he goes on to say Baltimore still needs to win out and keep winning as long as New England does. This would be a tough one for me as a fan. But what if we beat Baltimore week 17 and that gave New England a number 1 spot? Ouch! Just get in the tournament, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you got to root for or what in week 17, and I don't care if they beat the Sisters of the Poor out of Baltimore in week 17. That W will still look as nice and shiny as if they had beat them with all their starters there. And look, I mean, I think my comment on or what I meant to say about Baltimore is if they win. And if they win their next 3, and if New England slips up, then it's there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I understand the point about what if you beat Baltimore week 17 and New England's now the 1 seed. Everyone's going to go to Foxborough. We know their history there, but hey, week 17 is probably going to be the difference between getting in the playoffs and not. So nothing else matters at that point. You deal with the fallout of that seeding wise. You just got to do whatever you got to do to get in the dance.
All right, James Strong writes in, kick return game on the rise. Hey, Dave and Alex, love the show, and I've listened longer than I can remember. I jumped out of my seat at Heinz Field when Kareth White returned that kick to the 40. I was trying to keep a close eye on it to see why the blocking has struggled in the past. I think the lack of Rosie Nix and no number 3 tight end is really hurting them. I know Nick Vanette with Cam Kelly on the same line. I feel like once they have a third tight end that they dress on game day, it will greatly help. Thanks for all the questions answered over the years, and keep up the awesome work. Thanks, James. Gentry probably ain't gonna be that guy.
Well, I mean, I would prefer a tight end as opposed to Cam Kelly back there. But listen, a point taken about that. But they've had every combination. They've had tight ends out there before. Last year they had like Jesse and who else was back there? Grimble. I think this year they started the year with Grimble, and I think Gentry, whenever he was active, was back there. So they've had every kind of combination, every sort of body back there. You would prefer tight ends. Points this year they've had Johnny Holton and James Washington as the 2 guys right ahead of the kick returner, which are not ideal blockers. So I understand that, but at the same point, they've had times where they've been healthy and had your right blockers and right position groups out there and still couldn't block it up. So it's just been a systemic issue that's been a problem for a while now, but I was encouraged by that 134-yard return because that one was blocked up by, I think, Kelly. Vanette had good blocks in that one. Danger had a good block. And then, like I said earlier, White broke 2 tackles. You put that combination together, you're going to have a good return more often than not.
Yeah, I'm up for seeing more of those get past the 40, that's for sure. Keto writes in, top 100 NFL players. Hello, Dave and Alex. I'm not sure if you saw the list of finalists of the greatest safeties of all time, and that list included our very own Donnie Shell. Woohoo, I did see that. I think I posted that on Twitter. What are your thoughts on Shell being included as a finalist for one of the greatest 100 players of all time, but still not in the Hall of Fame? It's an uphill battle, man. Personally, I think it's a joke that he is acknowledged as one of the 14 greatest safeties of all time, but doesn't have a busting can. Here's the thing, man. We'll see what this and I've been watching it because, quite honestly, I think Bill Belichick's great TV. Well, am I going to get in trouble for saying that?
Hey, I think he is. I'm right there with you. I had a lot of fun listening to LT and Joe Green and Belichick and Ray Lewis. That was a lot of fun to listen to the other day. No, I agree. I think it's a crying shame that Donnie Shell's not in Canton. I know he's got a really uphill battle. Dave, you've advocated for his enshrinement time and time again, and I'm right there with you. But I guess the focus right now is making sure guys like Troy and Faneca and those guys get in the Hall of Fame, because Troy should be a first ballot, no doubt. Or if he's not, that's a crime. Faneca, I believe, deserves to get in. Hopefully this is the year for him. So I'm just hoping at least a couple of Steelers get in the Canton this year.
And the reason I say why Belichick is so good, because anytime you get Belichick talking about football history or players other than his own team, he's absolutely fantastic.
He's the only guy that could have talked about Dutch Clark when they enshrined him.
That was incredible.
Right. I barely even knew who Dutch Clark was. I could probably tell you that he was a football player from yesteryear, but I couldn't tell you a thing about him. Now, Belichick has time to prepare. Obviously, it's a tape segment, but still, his love of football history, because I love football history, that was really kind of a treat to learn about Dutch Clark. I think, though, I couldn't believe that Red Grange was not part of that list of running backs. Like, how does O.J. Simpson get in over Red Grange, who was not only the best player of his era, Red Grange back in the 20s, I think early 30s, but also basically saved football from collapsing back in the day when everyone liked college football, no one cared about the pro game. So how Red Grange wasn't part of that list really baffled me.
Tito, we'll see what this next show on, I think it's Friday night, has to say. But I got a funny feeling that Shell's not going to be chosen as one of the to the All 100 team.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and I'm saying I know we're running along or whatnot, what have you, but I've said it time and time again. If these voters, if these people that matter, that make the decision on this, would divide this up post the 70s super teams, and then look what he did, when they had lost a lot of those pieces, man. How can he not have him in there? I mean, he was about the only one of their few players on defense at that time. I understand a little bit of the bias. Well, okay, he was just part of that Super 70. Well, not only was he an integral part of those 70s teams, man, post 70s team as well too. And I don't think they look at it that way. I think they just see as him being an additional defensive add-on to the 70s dynasty teams and all. So
yeah.
Well, we'll see. And look, bias aside, I think he belongs in. I mean, and not taking anything away from who was the last one, Kenny Easley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kenny Easley's in there. I mean, Donnie Shell belongs in there as well too. So, Cosmo writes in, hi David and Alex. In the past, I heard you discuss quality sacks. Wonder if you guys have charted TJ and Bud's 2019 quality sacks. I'm curious about what percentage of their totals would be. Much love from LA, Cosmo. No, and look, we try to get to so much stuff, and I shiny objects distract me like craziness. But when we get into the off season, we'll do the individual sack recaps. But there are quite a few high quality sacks this year, right, Alex?
Yeah, I know that's an off-season project for you typically, but yeah, I mean Sunday, Watt's sack on Chris Hubbard. That was it. No, it wasn't the sack, but it was the pressure he had the first rush of the game. He got there, and I timed this in 2.19 seconds, which is just insane. No one does that. I mean, Hubbard didn't even touch him. So, and I think the actual sack he had was a pretty 2.5 type of a second snap to sack play too. So yeah, it's been a high quantity, but it's also been a very high quality of sacks this year.
Arthur writes in, Watt dropping into coverage. Love the show. Listen to every show. Like them long. You guys mentioned Watt dropping into coverage on Monday's podcast. Why on earth would you ever do that? Sorry, but if TJ Watt and Bud Dupree aren't rushing the passer and collapsing the pocket, it's a mistake. Even on run plays, they often chase down from behind. I know historically Steelers drop outside linebacker into coverage, and maybe occasionally you can get an INT that way, but more likely to get one because they hit a quarterback as they're released the ball. Just saying. Also, in my opinion, Steelers have one of the best chances in the NFL to beat Baltimore. With our speed on defense, think we have best chance of slowing Lamar, hoping we don't beat them in the playoffs and then get slaughtered by New England on their way to number 7. Living in New England, that sounds like a nightmare. Thoughts on that? They're obviously not dropping those guys hardly anymore.
Yeah, the good news is while they dropped Watt, looks like I think I have it as 8 times. I have to go back and check my charting on that, but that's what I'm pulling up right now. They dropped him more this week than that they did almost any game this year. Overall, Bud and Watt are dropping about 10 to 15% of the time. I'll have the final number for an article Wednesday morning, and that's a much lower number. I mean, TJ Watt, his rookie year, dropped about 36% of the time. I think last year was around 25%. This year, him and Bud are around 10 or 15%. So I can live with a particular game or maybe a play or two where they're dropping in the coverage because overall they've gotten wise and said, let's get these guys after the quarterback, and their drop rates have come way, way down.
Benjamin Keaton writes in, hello, Dave and Alex. Hello again, Dave and Alex. I know you guys have touched on this a few times briefly, but I have to get your opinion at this point in the season. Do you guys think we should do everything we can to keep Bud Dupree? How can they get the deal done and keep this defense together? This man is playing electric. Another huge strip sack on Baker Mayfield. He's making play after play, and his chemistry with TJ is only going to get stronger from here. Benjamin, look, we talk about this almost every show right now. We're probably going to be talking about it for every show until March rolls around here. Should they? I think you got nobody behind them. So the should they, I think a lot of people agree. You try to do probably everything in your power to do that, okay? But here's the thing I think that it's going to come to is it's got to start with the franchise tag. And the whole salary cap situation, and I've said it time and time, it can be massaged and all. But first and foremost, you've got to go into this with the understanding that if you placed a franchise tag on Bud Dupree, that you might not be able to get a deal done with him. And if that's the case, then you've got to be able to absorb that 15 whatever million franchise tag is on him for the entire season. That's tough to do with the way this team's going to be up against the cap in 2020 there. So look, you don't have to twist my arm, my feelings are not going to be hurt if you get Bud Dupree back or even Javon Hargrave back with his defense. I think just the reality of it is, unless something what I don't think is going to happen, and that's them getting a deal done with him pre-franchise tag. I think that franchise tag is the only way that you prevent him from going to market.
I know we were a little different on this. I think you could still try to get a deal done. I don't think you have to invoke the franchise tag.
I'm not saying that you don't try. It would have to be a substantial deal. I mean, it would have to be,
Yeah, you're not going to play games. You're not going to lowball him. You're going to give him a serious offer. We're not going to do this dance, just no time. You're just going to insult him if you do. I mean, you would negotiate in really good faith, so I think you can avoid the tag that way. But I agree with the overall point is that, yes, I would like to have Bud Dupree back, but that's a lot easier to say than actually figuring out how you get it done and how you can make this thing work with the cap, because you're right, it will be very difficult to do.
Look, I'm not going to paint myself in a corner and say no way they get a deal done with him before franchise tag deadline. I just will have to admit, in all my years kind of studying this and all, I'll be surprised if they're able to get a deal done with him. Assuming he stays out, assume everything stays the way it is right now. Prior to the franchise tag.
Mm-hmm. Yep, fair enough. Well, again, we said it before. We'll keep having this discussion until we get an answer. In March, I guess it would be.
And we're going to continue. We're going to keep talking about this probably every show here. John Robb writes in. John Robb from Virginia. Love your show. Never miss one. With AB potentially being humbled, if that's possible, would you take?
No, I already know where this is going. No, first of all, AB's not been humbled.
All right, that's Alex Kozora cutting off and being short there. Okay, that's not Dave Bryan doing that. Okay. Would you take a flyer at re-signing him next year if you could get him at a minimal price?
No. Nope.
No.
The idea that he's been humbled, I'm not even sure where that's coming from. I doubt that he's been. I think if he's saying anything to sound contrite, it's just because he wants back in football. No, I'm not taking AB back.
Cody writes in, hi, Dave and Alex. Tomlin has done boneheaded stuff feels like we are destined to meet the Patriots. Oh, I think he's saying has done stuff like, quote unquote, feels like we are destined to meet the Patriots in the AFC Championship game and then get waxed by the Jags for the second time. I think he has done a great job and maybe deserves Coach of the Year consideration for sure, but seems like we have a short memory on his gaffes. I mean, I guess he's referring to that interview he gave with Dungy, and I don't think
Mm-hmm.
he came right out. Did he come out and say it feels like we're destined to meet the Patriots?
I don't think that's the exact wording, but that was his sentiment. But who cares? I mean, is that if the issues I've had with Tomlin, that's pretty low on the list of stuff. It didn't make them less prepared for the Jacksonville game. So, I mean, yeah, you can criticize Tomlin. The dude's been coaching since 2007. There's a pretty wide body of work that can be criticized if anyone does that does anything for 12 years, 13 years, whatever it is. I mean, you're going to get criticism and you're going to have mistakes, but that gaff stuff is stuff for politics, not for football coaches.
Yeah, look, and I mean, yeah, is he going to make a decision still moving forward where we're scratching our heads saying, "Oh man, why'd you do?" I mean, yeah, I obviously set Alex Kozora off a couple weeks ago with that challenge, there. And look, I mean, he's not perfect. I don't think any of us have tried to paint him as that, have we?
No, and again, we've talked about his criticism, but and to me, I'm not sure what the relevancy of that is regarding this year. I think we all agree that if he takes his team to the playoffs, and certainly if they can win a game, he's going to be right up there, and probably is definitely worthy of a Coach of the Year consideration in the award. So I don't know what him saying about Tony Dungy, talking about the Patriots a couple years ago, what that has to do with present day.
Okay, I think we are at the end of it here. Alex, I think we'll end on that note. You got anything else kind of late breaking here?
No, that's about it. Are we going to look for a beat writer Friday? I know it's probably a little harder to try to contact some of those West Coast Arizona guys. Is that what do you think?
I'll effort it.
Okay.
I'll continue to effort it there. So hopefully we will. If not, look, we'll have a lot. Hey, real quick, I was going to ask. I thought crossed my mind when Tom was talking about Kyler Murray and running ability, all like that. This is a good week to sign back that mobile quarterback that they had ahead of the Ravens game.
Terry Christensen.
Yeah,
he got a workout today, so they might want to jump on that fast. I don't know what team he worked out with, but he was on the circuit today, so they might want to sign him back pretty quick. And they got an open practice squad, I guess, with Patrick Morris off. So yeah, could be a good idea.
Yeah, that flash. Look, he had whatever he did that week. They were more than ready for Lamar Jackson in that game. So it'd be interesting to see maybe if that's a move that's made. Obviously, that would be made bright and early Wednesday morning, so he could practice with the team. So we'll have to see. I mean, no word on that. I checked his Twitter feed earlier in the day, and I didn't see anything on that whatsoever. Who did he
work out? Yeah, let me look here. I just saw it on my timeline. Make sure I get his name right. He worked out with Denver today. It was him, Nick Fitzgerald, and Tyree Jackson working out for the Broncos. I don't think he's been signed, but he worked out today.
Yeah, you would think if they had eyes on maybe bringing him in, he'd be on a plane headed that way now. So that probably is. I mean, you could do worse. Pay him $8,000 a week to come in and imitate Kyler Murray, right?
Yeah, well, not a bad job offer to have.
All right, we'll talk more about previewing the game against the Cardinals. Go over anything else that stuck with us out on the All 22. Appreciate all the hard work Alex and all the guys do on the site at SteelersDepot.com. You can follow me on Twitter at SteelersDepot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. You can email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you'd like to donate to the cause here, please go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the PayPal button up right navigational bar. A few more donations in. I think that this past week we certainly do appreciate that. And I think I'm just looking right now. Got a couple more signups for the ad-free version of the site as well too. And for $25 for 1 calendar year, you can, from the date that you sign up, you can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com. And like I said, a lot of people have taken advantage of that and seem to like it as well on top of it. So until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.